The Celtics should trade Kristaps Porzingis. No, wait. The Celtics should keep Kristaps Porzingis. Wait, hold. You know what? Let's figure this out right now in the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Beantown, be ever ready. It's the C's. Who else could it be? What they gon' say now? Screaming like JT, Karalis. Recap the madness every game, every practice. Prime time, dapping D White on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It is your team every day. I got your team covered, the Boston Celtics, covered Monday through Friday. Every podcast is free. It's available everywhere. The show is on YouTube. You can comment on the YouTube page. Plenty of podcasts for you 5 days a week, June and July, 3 days a week, August, September, then back to 5 days a week. More podcasting than you're going to find anywhere else. So make sure you're subscribed wherever you get your podcasts and let me know what you're thinking. I'm John Karalis. I cover the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. I've been doing this job in some form, somewhere for about 20 years now. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Go ahead and subscribe and download that app. Take control of your finances. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com. You're going to get 50% off your first year. Today's show, all about Kristaps Porzingis. Should the Celtics keep him? Should the Celtics trade him? I'm going to make arguments for both. And then in the third segment, just let's hammer it out. Let's figure out what should the Celtics do. And of course, knowing me, it's all nuanced, but let's dive into this. First, the argument for trading him, which I think stands out as obvious for everybody. The obvious reasons to trade him are he's not available and he's, first of all, expensive. Second of all, getting older, 29, but it's not like your typical 29. His career is not going to last as long. It's not. And his lack of availability has been a problem, especially this year and these playoffs. He's coming off just a terrible playoff run where he averaged 7.7 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, not even a block. It was just overall a terrible. He shot 15.4% from three. It was a terrible playoff run. Now, last year, he only played 7 games in that championship run, but he was more effective in those games that he played. And he started out, before he got hurt, he was really that Miami series. It was obvious, okay, yeah, he's a real matchup problem. He was being the guy that we thought he was going to be. But the numbers simply don't lie when it comes to Porzingis. He has played in 99 of 164 regular season games in 18 of 30 games. So now the regular season stuff is an interesting kind of nuanced discussion, because the Celtics held him out. So 99 out of 164. How many of those could he have played? But the Celtics have been overly cautious. They think it's a collaborative kind of we're going to wait a little bit longer. Could he played in 100 of 9, 100 and something? I'm sure the number of when he was able to play versus the Celtics saying, no, you're at 99.9%. We're going to wait for that 0.1 and you're going to miss 2 more games. And how many times did they do that? So I do think the regular season number is misleading in a sense, but then we could also have that other argument of, well, if they didn't hold him out for 65 of those games, how many of those would he have missed, right? So instead of 99, would it have been less because coming back sooner would have meant another injury? Another fair discussion to be had here when we're talking about when is he available versus when is he not. And this season, he's coming off of he started the season coming off of a very rare injury. And this is another part of the problem with Porzingis. I've heard it. I've said it. You've heard me say it before here on the podcast. I've written it, whatever. He doesn't just get hurt. He suffered that ankle injury. It's one of the most rare ankle injuries in NBA history. He doesn't just get sick. He got sick back at the beginning of March, and in May, it bounced back. Like, he never got to 100%. And then the playoffs came around, and he was right back to being sick and knocked out. And I've heard stories of him being, at the hospital and just specialist after specialist after specialist, and no one can figure things out. And it's just they call it a post-viral syndrome, but you call anything a syndrome because it just is an all-encompassing, it's a catch-all, right? It's not a specific illness. It's you've had a viral thing. The virus is still, your body's not shaking it. So we're calling it post-viral syndrome. And that just means it's been tough for you. And your body can't really flush this out. And so that's where Porzingis is. It's not like, oh man, I got sick. I got the flu. I'm knocked out for a week and come back. I'm fine. It's not like, oh, I hurt my ankle and it's 2 to 4 weeks, 6 to 12, whatever it is. It's months and months and months because it was the rarest thing that you can have. Whatever he has, he can get a hangnail and then get like a weird infection that 0.1% of the population has. And you're like, of course he did, because he's Kristaps Porzingis. And that sucks. It really sucks. It sucks for him that keeps happening. But it is part of the uniqueness of his body that makes him so great as a basketball player. It also contributes to the injuries. He tore his ACL. I was working in New York City. I was, for people who don't know, I was working at a TV station in New York City for a while, and Porzingis was playing back then. And I remember talking to doctors and some of the surgeons that handle athletes. And we talk about just the sheer length of his body and the style of play and just the torque between big, long bones in his legs, playing the way he does, those big load steps, it puts a lot of torque on those joints. And of course, that's going to lead to some things. He's always going to be at greater risk for those types of weird injuries because his body is not in proportion. It's just way out of whack, and it makes things more difficult for him. So all of that for a player that's making almost $31 million next year, 30.7 at 29. It's just like, look, the reason why people are saying trade Jrue Holiday first is because he's basically 35 and it makes sense. He's due $100 million plus after starting next season. And you're like, okay, that just doesn't make sense for a team that's trying to cut costs. Holiday is the number one guy on the list. Number two on the list, you look at it and you go, Porzingis, $30.7 million. If you can find a way to cut that down, look, you get from $32.4 million for Holiday, you somehow take back $10 million less. If you can get $10 million less somehow with Porzingis, you save $20 million there. That's your second apron. You've gotten under the second apron. You still have to get further underneath to complete the business, but and be able to move forward and do business the way you're supposed to. But it just makes sense. The argument for trading him is financially, I think, first of all, teams can maybe talk themselves into 1 year of Porzingis. You're going to get offers. I don't think he's just damaged goods that you're going to pawn off on people. So he's going to be, I think, desired by other teams. And as far as your team goes, how much are you losing by losing him because he's not around as much. That is the simple case for trading Kristaps Porzingis. There is a case for keeping him. We'll talk about that when I come back. Today's show is brought to you by DoorDash. We've got a few games left in the NBA Finals. It's 1-1. So there are possibly 5 games left. And if in one of those 5 games, somebody scores 50 or more points, you, as a Dash Pass member, can get a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop. All you have to do, first of all, get DoorDash, sign up for Dash Pass, and enter the code Wingstop50. You place an order for $20 or more. The day after any player drops 50 points or more, you will get a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop. So, very simple. Whatever day it happens, the next day, if you're going out to lunch, if you want to have people over for dinner and watch a game or, whatever, however you want to do it that next day, when somebody drops 50, you sign up for Dash Pass on DoorDash to unlock this deal and other exclusive deals. When they score 50 that next day, Dash Pass members can grab a free 3-piece crispy tenders combo from Wingstop. All you got to do is make a $20 order, use the code Wingstop50, and that's it. They add the 3-piece crispy tenders combo to your order. That's Dash Pass. Your door to more savings, more flavor, and more ways to win. Terms apply. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out the Locked On NBA and Locked On NBA Game Night podcasts. They have Game 2 covered in detail on Locked On NBA Game Night. Everybody's previewing Game 3. Lots of discussion there. So make sure you're downloading the Locked On NBA podcast, Locked On NBA Game Night. They're both in the same feed. Okay. The argument for keeping Kristaps Porzingis. I think the thing that teams are going to talk themselves into with Porzingis is the same thing the Celtics can talk themselves into. First of all, one more season, right? So it's 1 year at $30.7 million. He is, at his best, an all-star level player. The best of Kristaps Porzingis is better than anybody that you can realistically get on the market. There's no player that can play the center spot for Boston that will be better at Porzingis' best than Kristaps Porzingis. So you have to weigh now how much of a drop-off is there. The offensive execution, the ability to punish a mismatch, the ability to hit from 35 feet out, defensively defending the rim. If you can have him on your roster for a good portion of the regular season, he is going to be important. He is going to get the job done obviously when he's available. So if you can go into the playoffs with him healthy, then you have a great chance. If he was healthy in that Knicks series, I still believe that they would have beaten the Knicks. If he was healthy for that entire playoff run, I think they could have gotten by anybody, right? A healthy Porzingis is a mismatch nightmare, and he is able to do a lot. At $30.7 million, you say, okay, maybe you do more. You can get more in the Holiday trade. Maybe you can get a little bit more distance closer to getting under the second apron. Maybe you go a different direction. Maybe that Sam Hauser, if I'm talking about making a $10 million difference between Porzingis and whoever comes in, well, the $10 million, you say, okay, Sam Hauser, $10 million into an exception or cap space for nothing. There's your $10 million. Now you can keep Porzingis and roll with it. Just roll with it at least until the trade deadline to see how Jayson Tatum is doing. Because Porzingis is so unique, you want to at least have the possibility of that mismatch on your team. At the same time, you also have future goals financially that you want to attain. And if you can get to under the second apron without Porzingis being traded, then next summer you can make real progress in getting further under the second apron, under the first apron, under the tax, by either letting Porzingis walk or re-signing Porzingis at a number that, if he's not available, it's okay, right? So I don't know what that number would be, but if he goes from 30.7 to, I'm just going to say 10.7, just to say it. I don't know if he would drop that far, but he might. Is he a mid-level guy next year? I honestly, I can't even say what the market would be for Porzingis at 30 years old on the open market in a second apron landscape, that when teams are going to spend big money, you're really just not going to lay out a ton of money for Porzingis. He's not available. He'll be past 30 years old. His career is not going to last till 40. His career is, 30 is going to be like maybe 3-4 years left for him. So maybe more, but I don't know. But it's still, each year he gets older, the likelihood of something even bigger, more catastrophic, it just feels like that's more likely. So my point is, what Porzingis is capable of doing versus what you have to pay him at $30.7 million, not worth it. But if you bring him back at $10+ million or whatever the number is, and you say, wow, well, now you're $20 million closer to getting under the tax. You can let him walk and be like, we're just not going to bring you back, and go a different direction. Depends on who they get back in one of these trades, who they draft, however all those things work. There's a lot that's going to happen between now and then. But keeping him and either letting him walk or re-signing him at a deep, deep discount, that gets you closer to your future financial goals. All the while keeping, first of all, great locker room guy, just good, like fan favorite. He's beloved in the locker room. I find him to be a very decent guy. At least to us, he's always treating us well. He talks to us kind of honestly. He's everybody loves him. He loves Boston. It's the positives of, if I could just say, forget everything. If the second apron didn't exist, I wouldn't be talking about trading Kristaps Porzingis. If the second apron didn't exist, and if the stupid tax bill didn't exist, or if it was just a normal tax bill and not a $250 million repeater tax bill, I wouldn't be thinking about this at all. This is all about necessity at this point. They have to save money. They have to cut down to get under these aprons and tax lines and all of that stuff. But the guys love him. Coaches love him. Everybody loves him. The reason to keep him around, aside from the financial reasons, there's a million reasons to keep him around. Understanding that his availability is always going to be in question, but if he's a $10 million player, then you're like, theoretically you can get another player in there with the money that you save, hopefully somehow, and maybe it just makes it more. Maybe you sign him to a tradable number after, you play out next year. You sign him to whatever number is a tradable number in this current climate. I have to see how this climate plays out before I can really get a sense of who's going to be worth what. But maybe you bring him back for another 2 years, and he becomes tradable at the next deadline and acceptable to a team that's like saying, 10, 12, 13, whatever the millions are. There's a reason to keep him around. There's flexibility somewhere in there. There's a way to use him other than letting him walk. So keeping him around makes sense. To me, makes as much sense as it does to trade him. I don't think it's clear cut one or the other. So, which is it? Well, let's figure that out next. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. We've been there. I've said it before. I've been there. I've been dead broke, constantly checking my account and wondering, how are there so few numbers in here? Look, now with Monarch Money, it's like a personal CFO. You can get full visibility and control over your finances, and it helps you take complete control. It's a command center. It tracks everything, all your investments, everything in one place. So it's not about managing your money. It's about building wealth. So with Monarch Money, you can look at the biggest things that you're just wasting money on. Fees, little minor purchases, little things that you didn't realize you were paying for, how much you're actually spending on food delivery. Instead of juggling all these apps, you can use Monarch Money. It does all that stuff. And if you have a partner, you can track shared personal accounts, set goals, stay on the same page, eliminate all that stress that puts a lot of pressure on a relationship. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNBA for half off your first year. Thanks for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA Big Board next. Make that your second listen. Locked On NBA Big Board with Rafael Barlow gets you everything you need to get caught up and be well-versed for the draft. Are you not up to date on the draft? Binge that podcast. You will know everything. You will be the office draft expert. Locked On NBA Big Board. Go check it out. So we've heard the argument for trading him, heard the argument for keeping him. What should the Celtics do? Well, as I said at the top, it's a nuanced discussion because there is no clear thing. Like, those of you who nodded your head and said, yes, trade him, absolutely, are right. And those of you who nodded your heads, we should keep him, you are also right. And I would love to see that argument play out in the comment section as people make their case. Because for me, where I'm leaning is kind of 60-40, 70-30, keep him. I think the Celtics can accomplish their financial goals for this year, at least this summer, without trading Porzingis. But I also think there's a healthy, I'm listening element to this. Right? If I'm Brad Stevens, I'm looking at this as, well, Holiday's probably going to go. Depending on how much money you can save there are ways, and depending on who you get back, there are ways where it's like, okay, if you can get this type of player, that type of player, makes other guys expendable. If you have shooters and whatnot, Baylor Shireman, you think he can step up. We get into that Sam Hauser plan where Sam goes into somebody's space, exception, whatever, and you've saved yourself a solid 20 some odd $1 million there, and you've gotten under the second apron. You feel good about that. You can probably have the ability to do another move somewhere down the line or something at the trade deadline. At least go into the season with Porzingis on the roster. And then from there, you can really, I think, figure this out. I just think the promise of what he can do, considering the expiring contract, considering the possibility of either letting him walk or re-signing him at a deeper discount and potentially using him as a trade chip next trade deadline 2027. 2027, February 2027. I think there is a world where you still have to prepare for it. Just assume he's not going to be available when you need him, and you have to prepare for that. But also, if he is available when you need him, you're like, oh, damn, this is a great option. If the Celtics can maneuver, and I don't know if this means they keep Luke Cornett or not. I don't know if this means Al Horford comes back or not. if they can maneuver something and go into the season with Porzingis, at least you give yourself a chance with Jayson Tatum to see, is he going to have a best case scenario? We just saw on Instagram, he's in the training room. He doesn't have the boot on. He's in good spirits. He's progressing. I don't know what level of progressing, but he's progressing. So at least see if you can get into that best case scenario where he comes back sooner than most people have. If he can come back in February and have 2-3 months to get into NBA type shape and start a postseason where you have Tatum being somewhere close to himself. You theoretically have Jaylen Brown and Derek White. And hey, Kristaps Porzingis is there. If he is available, then you're like, well, now the Celtics, they're true contenders. I don't think you just give that up this summer. You don't. Now, next trade deadline 2026, if it's not looking great, now you have Porzingis as a rental, but you're not asking for like massive return on him. You're asking for less. There will be teams that absolutely can talk themselves into, we're going to keep him on bubble wrap. We'll have him ready for the playoffs, and he'll be our ace in the hole. That is absolutely still possible. So I don't think you trade him this summer. But this is my 70-30. 70%, I don't think you trade him this summer. But there's that 30% of like, okay, you're going to offer me what? Oh, and that too, in these picks, I don't know what the trade value is really going to be. And I think the Celtics are still going to be looking to cut salary in any kind of trade for a big salary like Porzingis or Holiday. But if you get the right guy, and you get the right guy in the Holiday trade, now you're like, okay, this could be a quick retool, or we've got a set of players that we can play a certain style now that still makes us a contender. That is, you have to consider all possibilities. So that 30 to 40% that I'm talking about, where I say, yeah, trade him, I would go, I kind of like shoot my shot if I'm Brad. Like, let me just see. I think Porzingis could fit, and I don't even know what I'm even going to talk about here, but you say I think Porzingis can fit on this team. They get this guy that I like. Let's just call. Let's just call and see. And if they say no, it's no. But let's just see. And you shoot your shot, and maybe that's a little bit of shopping. But mostly, I think you just sit and listen, and you carry Porzingis into the season. Again, there's a real possibility that you let him walk and save $30 million. There's a real possibility that you re-sign him and you save $20 million or $15 million or whatever. And then you can turn around and trade him the following season. And you don't want to just burn potential trade chips. You just don't want to do that. So I would be careful. Now, I'll wrap by saying I think this is what Brad was talking about, or at least part of what Brad was talking about when he said you don't want to make emotional decisions, because it's very easy after that playoffs, after that loss to the Knicks, to be like, Porzingis gave us nothing. You got to move him. Trade him. He's done. Trade him for a bag of basketballs. Totally get it. I totally get that. But that's emotional, and I don't think that's the smart way to go. I get it. I get that he's not reliable because of the injuries and all of that stuff. But there's still a version of Porzingis that is valuable. And he's valuable either on the court or in a future deal. Somehow there is a lot of value left in Kristaps Porzingis. And in addition to him just being, I think, a great locker room guy. So my argument is keep him and, in a sense, kick the can down the road. Share your thoughts. Let me know what you're thinking in the comment section on the YouTube page, because I think there's a strong argument either way, right? I'm not saying anybody's wrong here. So let me know what you think. Make sure you're watching the show on YouTube. The show is free. It's 5 days a week. It's available everywhere, every podcasting app. So if you're new to the show, thank you so much. Everydayers, you're with me Monday through Friday. Thank you so much. Especially now, we're getting into mid-June. The Celtics haven't done anything. I'm kind of like making up topics to I have to do 5 days a week, and I love talking about this team. So I'm here for you, the everydayers. Thank you for sticking with me through this kind of quiet time. Thank you for subscribing. If you're new, please subscribe. Make sure that you are sharing the podcast as well. You're telling everybody they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast here on the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.